everyone. I hope this finds you well, and I hope to inspire you during this hour because I am so excited about our guest today. So, what I want you to do before we get started, before I want to bring the guest on, say hello if you are out there. If you are watching this after it's been live and you're watching the recording, say hello. I would love to see you. Say hello, and that way I know who has watched it, right? And I'll be able to definitely maybe shout out your name next time. But what I want you to really think about during this podcast is I really want you to think about this question: what treasures in life have you discovered this past week? Now, it doesn't necessarily need to be materialistic, okay? So, any treasure that you feel is important in your life that really has inspired you from this past week, you can either put it in the comments or you can, just really think about it. I just now bought a smartwatch. And at the beginning of every day, it always gives me something to contemplate on, to really think about. This is what this is. Okay. So the question, really think about it for a minute. And it's so interesting because my watch will always give me a minute and then I start thinking about it. so, so anyway, yeah. So definitely think about those treasures that you have really thought about and that you have gratitude for. Okay. So let's go ahead and get started. Let me introduce our wonderful guest. All right. And I know that you saw, at the very beginning, saw some things about him, but I'm going to tell you a little bit more. I mean, whenever I see everything that he has accomplished in life, I'm going, oh my gosh, I think I am so lazy. So he inspires me. So Sam Thiara is a professional who has created a personal journey as a storyteller, a writer, workshop facilitator, problem solver, educator, and entrepreneur. His goal is to engage individuals in their personal and professional development and was recognized by the Governor General of Canada for his work in hundreds of individuals he has mentored and thousands he has engaged. Presently, Sam is the founder and the chief motivating officer at Ignite the Dream Coaching and Consulting, a platform that engages his audience to define their path. He has recently wrote a book. I absolutely loved it. I wrote a book called Lost and Found: Seeking the Past and Finding Myself. It focuses on his journey to India to find his ancestral roots with little else than a faded photo and determination. The book is also about realizing one's cultural identity because many struggles with understanding who they are. All right, so let's bring him out. Yay. And I wish I had a little sound effect that would do clapping, so I'm going to do it for you.
Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. Lovely to be here.
Well, thank you so much, Sam. I say we. I'm sure everybody is out there is excited to have you on the show. But go ahead and explain. I know we're going to talk about the book, but go ahead and explain what really inspires your life.
Mhm. What really inspires is the fact that I've been given a lot in life with regards to experiences and the people I've met. And what inspires me is the fact that I'm not allowed to hold on to this. I have to give it away. But the more I give away, the more that comes back to me. And it's just this reciprocal piece of gratitude that I hold. And I think that's what inspires me, is that these opportunities just emerge because you're out there doing things, but not with regards to ego, with regards to status, not regarding money. It just, these are things that I really enjoy doing, and I have so much fun doing it that it doesn't feel like work.
And I love that you said that because a lot of people, they think, okay, I'm going to do the social media, I'm going to do all this, I'm going to be famous, I'm going to be popular. With really not thinking about, it's all about what your passion is and about what you love to do. And also giving back, like you said, the gratitude and sharing your talent with others. So I absolutely love this. Now, tell us about before, because I want to kind of talk about other things besides your book, and we're going to do your book, but tell us about what you do now, what you're doing in your coaching business, and how you're really getting people to really think about their own lives.
Sure. I mean, I wear many hats, but there's a common theme with many of these things that I'm involved and engage in. It's about igniting and inspiring individuals. It's about helping them realize their passion, which guides and directs them to their purpose. I want to help them get where their authentic journey is. So, for example, I mean, I teach at the BD School of Business at Simon Fraser University, and I teach organizational behavior. But it's not just about theories. It's about how can I inspire these young minds to go down their authentic pathway. Equally, at the same time, I'm working on with an organization, Illuminate Universe, and this person brought me on. Again, it goes back to that whole aspect of being with this person for 9 years and helping her in her journey. Now she's wanting me to be a part of her journey even more. And that's a platform to engage. She has to, over 20 months, build 100 online courses and 100 podcasts to deliver. So she's brought me in as, an executive leadership advisor to her with regards to how to do this. Just prior to this call, I was on a Zoom call in Zimbabwe because planning a retreat with 3 dynamic women in Zimbabwe and a fellow Canadian as well on mindfulness, self-care, and personal development. Also, making the book into a screenplay, and equally at the same time, uh,
Whew.
just and having 3 to 8 conversations a week with individuals about their journey and learning about who they are and going down that pathway. And finally, helping other smaller universities and colleges, because I've spent so many years in the higher education field, of supporting their processes and helping from a student engagement, alumni relations, community outreach. And then finally, I've worked with about 50 nonprofits just to help them become entrepreneurial. I want them to start thinking from a different perspective than donations and just the whole usual aspect and how they work on such a slim, razor thin budget. How can we engage them to become more entrepreneurial? So, and there's other stuff too, but that's sort of the
Well,
essence.
I wish I had known you, oh gosh, 15 years ago, I had a nonprofit.
Okay.
And it's like, my husband and I started it and, we learned as we went, but didn't mean that. I mean, I felt like we were successful. I felt like we really reached a lot of children, that really needed it. But it's like if we had a better team, there's always a reason for everything. I think it would have, kicked off a little bit easier, if we
Yeah.
knew how to reach out. Now, I know that you do say that you are a storyteller and that while you're writing this book and everything in your journey, you came up with the acronym CARP.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Can you
Yeah.
kind of explain what that this is, because I think it's really important you learned this along your journey. So, I think it will help others. Can tell us a
Sure.
little bit about that.
Yeah, I was asked to do my first TEDx speech, and I chose the topic of personal storytelling. And people said, well, that's great, but how can I learn to tell stories? And I thought, okay, let me break it down for how I do it. And I came up with the term carpe, as in carpe diem, seize the day, but carpe is the process I go through. Carpe stands for curiosity, appreciation, reflection, perspectives, experience. So, what that means is, uh, curiosity is, I think, or the way I describe it is, how do we discover the extraordinary in the ordinary? In other words, I think sometimes we go through life in autopilot, our routines, and everything seems ordinary. But embedded in the ordinary are these tremendously extraordinary experiences. So curiosity is the activator. That's what stops me. So that instead of seeing something for what it is, it stops me because I'm curious about it. Then from curiosity, appreciation kicks in. Appreciation is appreciating something for more than what it is and adding some purpose and meaning. But the way to add purpose and meaning is the R, which is reflection. Sitting there and realizing there's something significant here beyond what the obvious is. We all have perspectives, and that's the P. And bringing our perspectives in, uh, we start identifying something the way it should be, or that it means to us. And experience is the last piece. And that's a really important one, because if we don't capture this story as an experience, our story dies an untimely death. I'll give you a quick example of how I take something ordinary and make it extraordinary. So, over the many, many years now, I give out puzzle pieces. So, here's a single piece of a jigsaw puzzle. So, I give this
Oh,
out, and it's been about 5,000 pieces I've given to date. But if I give you this one single piece, what can you do with one piece of a jigsaw puzzle? Not much. It's ordinary. This is what people feel like. They feel like that single piece of a jigsaw puzzle. They don't know where they fit in. They don't know what the bigger picture is. But instead of the single piece, I say, here's my satchel. In my satchel are my puzzle pieces. If I give you this single piece, do you realize my puzzle will never be complete without you? Do you realize how important you are to me? And Michelle, I see the transformation on people's faces. Like they're like, oh my gosh. And I think that's the whole aspect of taking something ordinary and converting it to extraordinary. Because I've had people tell me it's taped to their mirror. It tells and it reminds them someone told them that they matter. It's traveled in backpacks around the world. It's in wallets. And I've given it to them 3, 4 years ago, and they show it to me saying, look, I still carry this. But it was the whole principle of carpe, curiosity, appreciation, reflection, perspectives, and experience that I go through that enables me to take something ordinary and then make it into something extraordinary.
see, and I love that. Now, everybody that's listening, you need to tell your story.
Mhm.
Absolutely, because I know there are so many people out there
Yeah.
that have stories to tell. And
Mhm.
of course, you shared your story in Lost and Found. And, I'll tell you, I mean, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But towards the end, I mean, I was in tears. So why don't we go ahead and I could explain it all day, but
Uh-huh.
I would love
Mhm.
for you to tell us about how you started the story,
Mhm.
your journey. You don't have to read everything, but tell us about the main
Sure.
points that really were important to you while writing the story.
I mean, I'm a British born Canadian with parents from Fiji Islands, which is near Australia, and grandfathers from India. And oftentimes I get asked, what part of India are you from? Because if you visibly see me, I look Indian. And I say, well, I was born in England, raised in Canada. And people are like, no, 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 your parents, what part of India are they from? Well, my parents come from Fiji Islands, which is near Australia. And then they look at me perplexed, going, wait, are you Indian? And I'm like, well, my grandfathers come from India. But then on the flip side, people are like, well, you know what? You're not Indian, you're Canadian. And I grew up in Vancouver, Canada since I was like 4 years old. And you grow up in a society that is predominantly, white back then, but you always saw yourself as Canadian until you got beat up in high school because someone saw you as a visible minority, and they just basically, for whatever reason, thought that you were something worthy of being picked on. And I always struggled with this identity piece, this cultural identity, because I segmented my life into British, Indian, Canadian, Fijian based on wherever I was in my life or wherever I was interacting. And it was only when I got to university into a much more broader global audience that I started meeting people from diverse backgrounds and learning about, their culture and their identities, and how much they embraced it. And it felt like something was missing. And I told myself I needed to, maybe go to India to find my, well, identity. But equally at the same time, we had lost our ancestral root connection back to our village in India because my grandfather left in 1905, hopped on a steamer ship and wound up in Fiji and never went back. And my dad's older brother had gone to the village, but he was the only one. And he passed away many, many years ago, but we never had that information. So I took this on as a challenge to say, I want to go to India with this, just this faded photograph,
Mhm.
very little information, and said, I want to take this on as a challenge. I thrive in ambiguity and uncertainty. And I thought, okay, this is a challenge. So I went to India, and the way I describe it is I'm a foreigner going to a land that should not be foreign to me, in search of a needle in a haystack, and not even knowing where the haystack was. And I think for me, the identity piece, I realized when I was on my way to the Golden Temple, which is a spiritual place. I remember waking up at 4 in the morning, the day that I was heading to the temple. And it just hit me like an epiphany, the fact that here I am thinking of my life as a thali. And a thali is a Indian platter with segmented dishes. So I had always seen my life as a thali, British, Indian, Canadian, and Fijian. But I woke up at 4 a.m. and I said, wait a minute, I'm not a thali. I'm an Indian rice dish called khichdi. Khichdi is this blend of flavors. It's a blend of vegetables, and everything comes together to make this dish. For your listeners, it'd be the equivalent of like an omelet. You just go to your fridge, crack a few eggs, and you throw everything together, mix it
Mhm.
up, and it goes into a pan. I think that's where my identity piece sort of really resonated with me, was the fact that I'm not a thali, which is segmented. I'm khichdi, which is a blend of cultures and flavors. And it helped me to realize that, you know what, I'm going to embrace them all. I will be all of them simultaneously, and appreciate and who I am as an individual who is of these various backgrounds. The journey itself to find my grandfather's house was certainly more of a challenge, as you read,
Mhm.
because, you know, the information was very limited, but there was also a lot of noise. Why are you looking for the village? It's so hard, you're never going to find it. Or if you find it, you know, you're probably going to get a bad reception because they think you're there for other, you know, reasons. But persistence was something I needed. And, you know, going on this journey, I wound up, you know, going with this photograph. A day before I left for India, my step cousin in Fiji said, I made it to the town, which is called Garshankar, but the name of the village you're looking for, Chadodi, is actually Janodi. Well,
Oh.
and that's where you start thinking, okay, but then I couldn't find Janodi on a map or anything, but we knew that the village was about 6 miles from this town called Garshankar. But then I did find a place called Jandoli, Chadori, Jandoli, and you think, to my dad, I said, you know, do you think that might be it? He said, you know, maybe the name has changed, and or maybe we didn't hear it properly, but that sounds like it could
Mm.
be it. So think of it this way: you drive to a courtyard, people are sitting there in Jandoli. You walk out with a photograph saying, are you part of my family? And the beauty of it is the fact that everybody wanted to help, and they took us
Mhm.
around Jandoli. They think they know somebody in the picture, um, but it proved that Jandoli, beautiful people, wrong village. And
Mhm.
I loved what they said when we found that it was not the right village. They said, you know what, come back tomorrow and just be part of our family.
Yeah.
And I think that really mattered a lot to me, to say, even though I didn't find my village, I felt like, okay, that I've been acknowledged, that, you know, maybe I'm close, but, you know, maybe this is as close as I get. And if you want, I can carry on how the story goes, but it's the journey that's really the important part. But I can
Yeah,
share.
yes. Oh, I
Okay.
agree. Yeah, because as I was reading it, it's almost like I was rooting for you. It's like, oh, come on, and then something would happen. It's like, so I agree.
Well, and that's where I was writing it in my journal, going with anticipation. I think I'm here and I'm excited, and then the deflation of it all.
Mhm.
But then the next day, you know, I phoned my parents and I talked to my dad. I said, look, I really tried. And he said, you know what, just go and enjoy India. And, but I still wanted to try. So my driver came back and I said, forget what everyone told us. Let's just drive to Garshankar, the town, and let's just talk to people. So we went to Garshankar and we're talking to people, but again, the noise. Oh, you'll never find it. Why are you
Mhm.
looking? What's the point? Or I don't know, you might not, you know, be pleased with what you find. And the other one was, you know, yeah, no, we've never heard of Chadodi. So it's like I kept, again, getting this whole aspect of deflation, going like, okay, I've gotten close, maybe within 6 miles, but that's it. And one gentleman said, Chadoti, I mean, I think I've heard of it and I think it's up the road this way. So I'm in my journal writing in that, okay, I'm very guarded here and saying,
Mhm.
well, here we go again. I'm
Mhm.
trying not to build this up. We drive to this roadway, which the guy had directed us for about 5, 6 miles, and we come to an archway, and this old man is seated there. And he's staring at the ground, and we sort of interrupt him, and we show him the photograph. He looks at the photograph, and he says, well, I don't know about, the people or the house or anything, but there's a guy in the back. He looks like so and so. And he gets into our vehicle, and I'm like, okay, here we go again. I mean, I'm prepared for nothing.
Mhm.
And we drive to a house. He gets out, has the photograph now. People come out of the house. And it was interesting because people gather around, and like usual, they look at this picture. And this one woman in a shawl looks at this picture and she said, that's me in the picture. Who are you guys? And I was like, wait, wait. And I had to do a double take. I said, you just said that's you? And she goes, yeah, that's me in the picture.
Yay.
And and she was like, but who are you? And I was just like floored because it's like, are you kidding me? This is you? And when I described who I was, she hugged me, tears were flowing, and she just said, you're home. And I thought that that just really captured it for me in that regard when she said, you're home. And where I actually was standing is my grandfather's older brother's family's house. And that's when my
Mhm.
grandfather left India.
Mhm.
So it really became a full circle, and you were able to reconnect. And I know you showed a picture of the treasure,
Yeah,
and
and
I
I'll
think
do yeah, I've got it right here as well. And,
and
I I
yeah,
wanna tell you, I started this is when I saw the tears were coming because that really touched me. Go ahead
mhm.
and
Yeah,
explain what
no,
that means.
because the idea is, I mean, people think that treasures have to be monetary, something that is expensive, but treasures, like when I have it in that box, and I tell people some of the world's greatest treasures cannot be bought. And if I showed you the contents, you'd look at it going like, there's nothing here. Like that's just dirt.
Mhm.
But the treasure here is I went out into the fields where my grandfather's house was. I scooped up dirt and I brought the dirt home to my relatives. And I gave it to relatives in different parts of the world where they are now residing as a way to say that we've reconnected back to our ancestral roots. So for me, the treasure was actually being able to find my ancestral roots and being able to actually hold the soil that comes from our village.
And what was so amazing is that, you were able to share your experience, even though it was, concrete, like the soil, you were able to bring a little touch from your village home. And
Mhm.
that's what really touched me because your
Yeah,
dad, right,
yeah,
couldn't travel at the time. And
mhm,
so I'm thinking, what a gift that you
yeah,
gave him.
yeah,
And while you were explaining your journey, I also was started thinking, your puzzle piece story, I'm
yeah,
thinking, you need to make a puzzle because it's almost like each time or each
yeah,
chapter could
yeah,
be a puzzle piece of your journey of how
yeah,
you actually got there.
truly.
Okay. And you said that you want to take your book into a
Yeah,
screenplay.
yeah,
So my question, and this is kind of a fun question.
mhm,
So if we get this out and it's either a TV series, a movie, who do
mhm.
you want as an actor to play you?
Uh, one thing I will say though is I one thing that's been sort of implemented into the
Mhm.
screenplay is I'd love to have a cameo. I'd love
Oh,
to
right.
be no, I'd love to be the chaiwala,
Absolutely.
the guy who serves tea to the actor who plays me. So it's me serving me, and no one will know except just a few friends. Actor wise, I think, I mean, Dev Patel comes to mind, except
Mhm.
the thing with Dev is, he's already done a movie like this. So
Oh, right.
I'm thinking an actor of Indian origin who's maybe North American who could really
Mhm.
connect to the story. Uh, you know, Karan Brar is somebody that just came to mind. I mean, he's done Disney shows as a kid, who's grown up now, and he's about the right age that could really relate to the story.
Right.
That might be somebody that might fit the bill with regards to it. But I think one of the hardest parts, Michelle, or it wasn't hard for me, but I think what the screenwriter was working with me on is, as the author, they needed to change up the story to some extent. It's still the essence of the story is there, the
Mhm.
integrity of the story is there, but you have to adapt it. And they said, "Are you comfortable with adapting it?" And I said, "They're the experts if it needs to be adapted." And when I read the screenplay, I couldn't put it down. Like it just, I
Right.
could visually see the story. It's changed from the book to some extent,
Right.
but the journey is still there. And but it was interesting because I couldn't put the screenplay down. I loved it.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, and I think a lot of times they do have to change some elements in it
Yeah,
to keep, and not meaning that your story is not entertaining. It is in a book,
yeah,
but whenever you change it to screenplay, I've heard that they do have to put those pieces in there.
yeah. The
But
visualization.
hey, you
Yeah,
get your story out there anyway. The
yeah,
main, like what you were saying was the main point.
yeah.
Okay, so is there anything that we did not talk about that you want to make sure to tell the audience?
Sure. I think the one thing I would that's related to the book is how many people are hungry for that type of information about finding and searching for their ancestral roots.
Mhm.
And I've had many conversations with people, and that's part of, I think, what the importance of writing this book was. It's a beautiful story that needs to be shared. But for example, I had this one gentleman whose background is American, but his ancestral roots go back to Sicily. And he was like, "Man, I love the story, but you know what? I'm never going to be able to find my roots." And we talked about it, and I said, "But because he said there was no records whatsoever. We don't know the house, the town, the village, nothing, just that it's Sicily." And I said,
Mhm.
"But have you been to Sicily?" And he said, "Oh yeah, no, I've been to Sicily." And I said, "But when you were in Sicily, did you feel a connection to this place?" And he said, "Yeah, no, I felt a connection." I said, "You did exactly the same thing as I did, except mine just went in a different direction. If you feel a connection to a place, then there's something about that place that I think is really important, that is, it comes and touches to the roots of who you are as an individual." So uh, make sure that you don't ignore that. And equally, if you are interested in ever finding out your roots or that information, start early, because as you talk to
Mhm.
elders, they start forgetting things. But talk to them earlier, start documenting, and make it into a journey and see where it guides you.
Absolutely. And I also think not only the people that are trying to find,
Mhm,
their ancestors, but what if somebody is adopted and want to
mhm.
find their background that way? That's
Yeah,
another scenario. And it does take time. It does take time for them to actually find their families, but it's important. I
yeah.
think it's like a spiritual journey. You
Mhm.
find that little piece of yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Sam, are you ready for the wheel?
Let's do the wheel.
All right, let's do the will. You can't tell I'm in it. Used to be in education, can you? Okay, yeah. So this is the teacher in me. We have to do the will. All
Okay.
right. So I'm gonna get
Mhm.
here. I'm gonna spin it. I know it's real little and it's hard for us to see it, but it will show
Sure.
us what it lands on.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, there we go. Oh my gosh, isn't that interesting?
Mhm,
That is actually a perfect
mhm,
um question for you. So, if you went back in history,
mhm.
okay,
Yep.
who would you want to meet?
Okay. If I go back in history, I'm going to say recent history.
Mhm.
One person I think I would really like to meet is Anthony Bourdain. I quoted him in my book, but I just really loved his perspective and view of the world, because I think he inspired me to travel not as a tourist but as a traveler, to talk to people, to engage, and to realize the significance that we all bring to this world, and not to go with my perceptions or my opinions. To be open to listen to people. So I would have to say, not so far back in history, but he's an individual that I wish I had a chance to meet and sit down and, in a, let's say, in a small Vietnamese hole in the wall restaurant, just sit with him and have a
Oh yeah.
conversation. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And have a conversation, right? And have it
Mhm.
last all day, not just an hour.
Oh, totally.
I, before we do the second part of the show, I do want to add here because this
Mhm.
is a quote that you had in your bio, and
Yeah.
I absolutely love it. Okay. So, everyone's life is an autobiography. Make yours worth reading.
Mhm.
So, again, I do want to thank you for being here and absolutely writing your book and sharing it with us. Because I know sometimes it's very hard to, because you're kind of, gullible, I guess you could say, when you put
Yeah.
your story out there, you just never know if it's going to be received or not. And I think it's going to be one that's going to, and I'm so excited to hear that's going to be a screenplay. So,
Well, if it becomes a
okay.
screenplay, Michelle, you'll have to come to the premiere.
Oh, absolutely. Hey, I'll buy those tickets, and I guess I would need to get a passport. I don't know, because would it be shown in Canada or LA?
Hey, there may be one in LA.
Yeah. Okay. Well, see, there you go. Hey, I'll be there. Okay. So let's go ahead and start the second show and the second part of the show. And what I normally do is add some music on there. So don't go away, Sam. Okay. And I want to say before we go on to the next one is I want to say hi to Kimberly. She's at work. Bless her heart. She does that a lot. She puts her earbuds in and I think listens to it. So hi Kimberly, I wanted to say hi to you before I start the music. And what the music does, Sam, it's like any energy work, it kind of brings up the energy. And because especially for me, I have to raise my energy to do the psychic reading. So let's do it. Okay, there was kind of a delay. I was going, is it coming back on? Now, just to let you know, too, Sam, these psychic readings that I do on this air is just for inspiration, for the week and just to have fun with it. So, but I will do what I've been doing because there's like a couple of people that hop on, so I can actually kind of do more extension. So I'm just going to do a 3 card pool, and it's mainly past, present, and future. Very simple, but the future one is more that you need to look at habits, things that really, along your journey that you may not have thought about. So let me get into it. Oh, and by the way, I decided to pull these cards for you. It's my spiritual cards. I've got
Mm.
different decks, and I just felt like I was being pulled for the spiritual ones. I can always tell when spirit is here, especially the question that you got on the wheel. They knew what you needed to have. Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. So in the past, all right. So and let me read because what it says on the card, I'm not really feeling for you. Okay. All right. So right here, a lot of times the cards will say something, but intuitively, I'm not really feeling it. And so I'm asking what direction to go. So this is the card says that your children are protected, but what this really feel I feel like in the past is that you really, and I think your journey is not only for the child in you, but I think your journey is very important for your family. And we've talked about that, right? So I think that has been an important part of your family. But in the past, it's just something that you've really had to work on. But what you need to do in presently is really celebrate what you have, okay? And because you are so busy, pick back and whatever, you need to celebrate what you have. And I know that you already do, but not only, celebrate with others, but internally and in the to make it a habit, and this is and I'm going, but he already shows it, and I was trying to get some more input on this, but what it says is potential, okay? And it's like a little girl looking into the crystal ball. And what you really need to do, even though you have accomplished so much, you have still so much potential. Don't stop. Don't like say, okay, I'm done. I've already showed the world. I've already shared everything, my story. No, you keep going. And the screenplay, even though that's going to be kind of a hard road, which it always is, just stick with it because it does have a lot of potential out there and a lot of potential of reaching people. And your book does as well. So just don't give up. So does that
Absolutely.
resonate with you?
No, it does resonate. And funny enough, when you talked about the past and the children, and I saw the image of the tiger under the
Yes.
Asian sign, I am the tiger.
Oh
So
my gosh.
yeah,
Say that is awesome. That all brings it out. Oh my
no,
gosh.
it does. And I mean, yeah, I think to your point, celebrating is something that I have those mini little celebrations of things that I'm happy and proud of. And I
Right.
find that it's the other people around me that celebrate my successes more than I celebrate, because again, it
Right.
is one of those things that I think I've always checked my ego at the door. It's not about how much money I can make. It's not about how great it was. It's more of like, how many people did I impact today? And that's what I celebrate. And the
Right.
future potential, I think you're absolutely spot on with that, because I think the way that I've always looked at it is, where does this all guide me? Where is this going to take me? And I think one of the beautiful ways I can describe it is, you know, it's about changing the world, but not changing the world through my eyes. It's
Mhm.
about being present in other people's lives to change the world through their eyes. Because if they see the world differently, I've changed the world. But I don't want to change it to how I think it should be. It's got to be how
Okay.
they see it.
Right.
But what's interesting is I am striving, like I'm a professional speaker, so I'm
Mhm.
striving to get onto the world stage, but not for status, money, or
Right.
uh, you know anything except the fact that I have so much that I have to give. So I'm going to keep striving. But I think one of the things that sort of supported and helped me is this idea that I've accepted that I'm going to keep continuing to strive, but I've accepted, what if this is as good as it gets? Like, I think that sort of grounds me, as in I've accepted striving. I'm still going to keep on, but I'm allowing myself to accept, as long as people are positively impacted, I'm good. So striving and accepting. But the benefit is, and I've heard this from other people, is no, no, you're doing more for me than any of those motivational speakers have done. Maybe I've already accomplished. Striving, I'm going to keep on going. I've
Good.
accepted, but maybe I've already accomplished if it's impacted that person where their life has
Right.
changed. So I'm going to keep going. But I really found that, the last one, potential, keep going. And that's my mantra as well. I do keep going. And
Good.
as long as people are positively impacted, that's what matters to me.
And see, and that's one reason why I love doing the readings, because the cards, if nothing else, it brings in a conversation,
Mhm.
and for you to reflect on
Yeah.
life as well.
Yeah.
So, Sam, again, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you, and I wish you the best.
Thank
And
you.
I know that we are so, I don't want to say us earthlings, but we are so lucky to have you on this earth with us,
Oh, thank you.
because you do share the light and the love for everybody.
Oh no, thank you, Michelle. And equally at the same time, I've said the people I've met, they become part of my journey, and always happy to keep in touch.
Well, and every time I look at a puzzle piece, I'll think of you now.
There you go.
Thank you so much. I'm going to
All
go
right.
ahead and remove you, and then I'm going to go ahead and continue with the readings. All right.
Perfect. Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Thank you, my
Bye
dear.
bye.
Bye bye. All right. So, Kimberly, I know you're at work. You don't have, and I think it's so awesome because hopefully I can inspire you for the rest of the day. So let's do it. So I'm going to go ahead and do a reading for you, and I hope that, and I remembered last time that we, had a guest on, and I hope your daughter is doing well. Um, so okay, and I'm getting confirmation. Oh my gosh, energetically that she's doing much better. I don't know, just something kind of flew in and told me, you know, um, that's how I get my validation, is getting goosebumps. So all right. So Kimberly, let's go ahead and do this for you. And I want to share the love and light with you as well. And I'm also going to stick with the spiritual cards, okay? Okay. I have them face down, so I don't even know what they're saying yet. Ah, okay. But sometimes, just like I was talking to Sam about, sometimes this kind of gets you to reflect about what is going on in your life. And sometimes spirit has a way of showing different symbols that we really need to think about. And hopefully I hope it's different reading for you, Kimberly, each week so that it does inspire you. So let's go ahead. And this is so interesting. Okay. So the peacock, it came up for the past. And I'm also going to, for some reason, I was being pulled for the green. And the green is your heart, speaking your truth. Okay. So, and this is kind of what this card is. It has a picture, of a lady looking down with all the flowers, but raise your standards. And this is something that you've really had to work on in the past is raising your standards, not only for other people treating you in certain ways, but also you've had to raise your standards to the way that you look at yourself. Okay. And not being so hard on yourself, but raising your standards so that you feel that inner loveness, that inner calmness. So that's something that you still tend to battle a little bit, but you've really had to work on. And I just think of peacock, their feathers just coming out and flowing, and you will definitely do that. Okay, so presently, follow your passion. And I know this keeps coming up because I know you're talking about work and everything, but for presently, look at your passion and make sure, and that's what's going to, for some reason I feel like that's going to inspire you. Okay, is your passion. And what I'm really feeling with your passion is something that really slows you down, which is really good and really puts you, in your true self energy. You feel yourself, okay, in that energy, and you feel the love, and that's exactly where your passion is. And you may not be able to put your passion as, making money, but that's not really important, okay? Not if you're able to make ends meet. Now, the very thing that you need to, and I love this, okay, make it a habit is find that inner woman, okay, the sensuality, express yourself, okay? And this is awesome. Just find that passion, find where you really feel like a woman. And I mean, we're talking, find that woman energy. And that may, by going, I always tell people like getting their nails done, that kind of brings out that energy and it makes you feel so good, But yes, they are definitely beautiful cards for you, Kimberly. Now, hopefully that will inspire you. But this week, what I really want you to do is pamper yourself. Okay. Pamper yourself by, and I know that's easy for me to say because I'm not, but even if you don't have the time to get your nails done or whatever, do it yourself or go get a massage or walk around at the park. Just do something that really, enlightens you. And, but you definitely need to pamper yourself for this week. All right. And you're welcome, Kimberly. And again, thank you so much for being here. And I hope that everybody has been inspired this week. And again, the question, this whole podcast has been about thinking about what treasure that you have in your life that you have gratitude for. And it doesn't have to be materialistic. It can just be something that you feel like it is a treasure and that you would love to put in that little treasure box and keep forever. So I hope that this inspires you. And thank you so much for listening to Michelle's Inspiration Hour. And I'm going to put Sam's picture up one more time and read what his quote is for his life, that everyone's life is an autobiography. Make yours worth reading. And remember, everybody has a story. Don't be shy. Get it out there because you may inspire others as well. All right, I will see you in a couple of weeks. Thank you so much.